This is a video describing how to import your photographs into Lightroom from a memory card. First thing you need to do is look into Lightroom. So I'm going to open up Lightroom. This opens up as the main library module in Lightroom. And we need to go in and check your preferences. If you go up to Edit, come down to Preferences, a window opens up that has 5 tabs up at the top. If I click on the General tab, under Import Options, if you would like Lightroom to automatically sense you inserting your memory card and open up Lightroom automatically so that you can import the pictures, you need to have this little box checked here that says Show Import Dialog when a memory card is detected. I believe this is checked and turned on by default in Lightroom, but I may be wrong about that. So as long as that's checked and then just say OK, all right, then we can get back out of Lightroom. Now, the way this works, if you have that box checked, is as soon as you take a memory card out of your camera, insert it into your card reader, either built into your computer or one that you have attached with a USB cord, as soon as you put in the card, Lightroom senses that the card has been inserted. It opens itself up, even if it's been closed, and it goes to its import page. And what it does is it basically scans the card, looks for images, and displays the images that are on that card. So that's as simple as it is. In my particular case, up here, we start in the Lightroom import page from the left side, work our way across the middle, and then go to the right side. So on the left-hand side, it's detected the card for us. Well, if you didn't have the import automatically box checked, then you could get to this import page from the main part of Photoshop by simply clicking on the import button. If you do that, you would have to it would show you all your drives that are associated with your computer, and it treats the card reader with the card inserted as one of the drives. In my case, it's my X drive. If I drop down the little triangle, you see there's a folder, the typical DCIM folder that's in all cards that come out of a digital camera. Drop down that little triangle and it shows you the actual folders that contain the pictures. Okay. In my case, I only have one folder that has pictures in it. In my case, it's 100 and KM. KM stands for Konica Minolta, and 020. The 020 just is a code for the Konica Minolta A200 camera, which I use to shoot these photos. So you click on that, and it will look in that particular folder and give you the pictures that are in that particular folder. And it shows them in the center section here. And you can change the size of this. There's a slider down at the bottom for thumbnail size. You can make them really small, okay, or you can make them about that big. All right. I keep it somewhere in the middle, so I see about 5 thumbnails across the center of my image. I'm working on a monitor that's got a 1920 resolution for the horizontal resolution. All right. Now, if Lightroom thinks it has imported some of these images before, and it checks its database to see if it has them, then you may see some of your images are grayed out if they've already been imported into Lightroom. If you don't want to import any of the particular images, you just uncheck the little checkbox at the top, and it'll sort of gray it out for you or darken it down. And those images will be skipped. They will not be imported during the import operation. But generally, we want to import everything we have on the card. All right. And I think I have about 80 pictures here. You can show them in this view if you click on any picture and come down here and click on the loop view. You can see at larger scale, so that if you did have some terribly exposed pictures, you could skip importing them. Now, over on the right-hand side is where all the action happens. So Lightroom says, all right, I found these pictures in the left-hand column. I found the pictures on a memory card. I think you want to copy them from the card onto one of your hard drives. And I'm suggesting that you put them on your C drive, which is your normal internal hard drive. And Lightroom wants to, it finds the My Pictures folder, and it figures, well, that's where Microsoft wants you to put pictures, so why not put them there? So you could do that if you want, and you can it'll basically create a new folder under my pictures. If all we did is say import at this stage, it would create a new folder under my pictures that contain these images. You can specify that it should go into a subfolder. You can change the format of the subfolder with the little commands over here. I don't do this. I don't like to import my pictures into my main internal hard drive. I would rather keep my pictures out on an external drive, and I also want to back them up to a second external drive during import so that I know I have two good copies of my pictures on two separate hard drives. So what I do is there's a little triangle. This is the C drive. So a little triangle over at this side. I click on that and it collapses the tree structure. And what I've got is, you can see it's showing all my drives again over here that are currently active. And I want to store my pictures onto this N drive. So there's a little triangle here. I click and it drops down. And it shows me the first order of subfolders. And I'm going to keep these in a folder called my desktop backup. And at the moment it's going to be on the D drive, the D partition of that backup. Okay, and I'm going to come down to the My Photos folder, which I've created on that particular drive. And now we have to do some scrolling. You can use the scroll wheel on your mouse to scroll down, or you can use the scroll bar over here on the right-hand side. But we're under the My Photos, and then I'm coming down, and these were shot with my Minolta camera, so I've just organized things so all those pictures go there. And I have a bunch of things I do under Minolta, but one of them says Dick's Camera Images, so I'm putting them under there. And the way I store my photos is I store them by year. I have a folder for each year. So let's say this is 2011, so I'm going to drop down that folder and scroll down a bit. And you can see I already have 4 folders in there for this year, but I want to basically create a new folder to put these images into. So I'm going to go to 2011 and highlight it. And then all I have to do is right-click and say Create New Folder. And that gives you a little browser window, typical browser window you see in almost any operation with a Windows machine. And the N drive is where I want to put my stuff. If I scroll down a little bit, you can see it has expanded out the M drive. It's expanded it out to the D backup. In other words, it's finding this 2011 folder for me. And I just scan down till I see it. And we'll get there in a minute. Okay, and there we are. Okay, so the 2011 folder here is the one that I'm showing over on the right-hand side. So what I want to do under 2011 is, if I expand this out, it will show you, scroll down a little bit, it will show you I have these 4 folders there at the moment that I've already imported into Lightroom, but I want to create a new folder that's in that same hierarchy. So I go to the 2011 folder, highlight it, I come down here and I click on the Make a New Folder button. You see it adds a new folder here, and then I can give it whatever name I want. And I like to specify what the name is. So I'm going to call this 2011, and then I'm going to use an underscore, and 09 for September, an underscore, and then today's date, which I'm not exactly sure what that is. I think it's the 28th. Let's say it's the 28th. And then if you want to give a descriptive name, these are photos that were fall colors shot in Ward Pound Ridge Reservation, so I'm just going to say WPR, which I know means Ward Pound Ridge. Okay, and then I hit the Enter key so that it uses that file name, that folder name now. And then since that's highlighted, all I have to do is say OK. And if we look over here now, we see that it has gone to that folder. It's an empty folder at the moment, but that's where we're going to store these pictures. That's going to be the primary storage of the first copy of these pictures. Now I also said I wanted to store a second copy of the pictures. And if we come up to the top, if we check the box here, it says make a second copy. All right. And if I just sort of double click on the one that's there, if there is one there, and again it opens up my browser window. And this time, instead of storing it under my computer, and instead of storing it on the N drive, I'm going to make the second copy. I want to go out to my what I call my O drive. And I have a similar file structure that I had on the previous N drive. So I'm going to go to desktop, I'm going to go to D, I'm going to go to My Photos, All right, then I'm going to find the Minolta folder. There's my Minolta folder. Then I'm going to come down to Dick's Camera Images. Okay, and that gets me to where I store my backup copies of the photos. Okay, so as I scan down, I'm going to store the backup copy here in Dick's Camera Images. And let me scroll down to the 2011 folder, open that up. Oops. Okay, and you see we have the four folders already there. I want to create a new folder, so I'm going to highlight 2011, click on the Make a New Folder button, and then type in the name I want for it, and hopefully I'm going to use the same name as I did on the other drive, 2011 underscore 09 underscore 28, and call it WPR for Ward Pound Ridge, and say enter. Since it's highlighted now, I just say OK. And if you look over here and hover over that, you see it expands out, and it shows me the path to get to that particular folder. So that's where it's storing my second copy. Now, we can also, you'll notice we have a box over on the right hand side here that says don't import suspected duplicates. If Lightroom Catalog senses that you already had imported the images off the card, it will basically ignore those images if you check this box, which I don't want to do. Okay. So the other thing we can do a couple other things we can do during the import of the photos, because what it's going to do is it's going to take all these photos off of the card, and it's going to write them to two separate folders, one on one hard drive and one on the other. Okay. I could rename the files if I want. If I click on the little triangle next to File Renaming and I say Rename the files, I can specify, and there's a template here you can get into and just pick your choice of what kind of a name you want to give it. You can add sequence numbers to it, that kind of thing. You can change the extension from uppercase to lowercase. Again, I don't really like to rename my files and import. I like them the way they came out of the camera. So I turn that feature off. The next options you have is you can apply some presets to the images as they're being imported. And there are developer settings, for example, and Photoshop ships with just a ton of these. And you can see all kinds of different presets and creative looks and whatever. And any presets you've created of your own are also available on this list. So what I tend to do, if I scroll down this massive list, is all the images that are shot with this particular camera, my Konica Minolta A200, I have determined what the lens correction is for these for that camera. Went through a fairly long procedure and created a profile for my camera in Lightroom such that it knows all about barrel distortion and pincushion distortion and chromic aberration and all that good stuff. And I created a preset that corrects for all of those. And I want it to apply the correction automatically to these images as they're coming in to Lightroom. So I choose that one. And that's the only developer setting that I use on the way in. You can choose many of these if you want to get different looks. Now, the next thing I would like to do here is I like to add a copyright. And I've created presets. You do that by clicking on New and working your way through a template. Created a preset that puts my copyright for the various years on these images as they're being imported. Okay, so we're going to use Dick 2011 copyright. And you can also add keywords. And if this is a good time to add keywords for the that apply to all the pictures you're importing. So in this particular case, these are all pictures of fall colors. So I'm going to just type in, as I type F, it gives me a list of all the keywords I've already used in the past that start with an F, and I'm just going to choose fall colors. The first time through, you have to just type in fall colors. Then I'm going to, you have to separate keywords by either a space, a comma, or a semicolon. So I'm adding a comma. And then I also want these are all shot from Ward Pound Ridge, so I'm going to type in, just a W. And again, if I didn't, first time through, I would type in Ward Pound Ridge. But once I've already got the keyword created, all I have to do is pick it from the list. All right. So basically, I'm going to tell it to add two keywords to the to all these images that are coming in. The first keyword is going to be fall colors. The second keyword is going to be Ward Pound Ridge. Okay. So now we're ready to do the importing at this point, and the import button is down at the bottom, and all I have to do is click on import. What it does is it switches back over to the main Photoshop window. You have a progress bar that's coming in on the left side. It brings the images in about 5 at a time typically, and it's putting them into a catalog that calls itself current import. You see the number here. It tells you how many it's imported. We're at 25 at the moment. It'll jump up to 30 in a second, hopefully. Okay. And when the progress bar finishes, now you'll see the pictures start appearing here. Again, I can scroll with the scroll wheel here, with the scroll bar, or just scroll with the scroll wheel on my mouse. So if I scroll down, it fills in the thumbnails eventually here. Okay. Now as I scroll through the list, it looks like it's got them all, with one exception, which will come in a second. And you'll notice it's still the progress bar went through once, and that brought in the thumbnails, and then it's going through a second time. And what it's got to do is it's got to prepare a whole bunch of standard previews that Lightroom uses for projecting the images quickly. So there's still action going on here. Even when the progress bar disappears, it still is thinking for a little while. Okay. So just let it finish, basically. You can do other things if you want in Lightroom while it's doing this. If you're doing, say you're importing, 1,000 raw files or something at one time. This is going to take a few minutes, even on a relatively fast computer. And you could go into Lightroom and work on other pictures while these are being imported. Now you notice when it does import the pictures, it gives it a consecutive number here in the corner. It gives it the file name of each individual image, all right, as they come out of your camera. It uses a little bit of coding here, down here. If you had done, worked on the pictures previously, these little code symbols show up. But the first time through, you won't see these code symbols when you're coming directly out of your camera. Okay. All right, so that's it. So we've basically imported the pictures at this point. Everything's fine. If you look over here on the left-hand side of the catalog, under the catalog, it tells you that the previous import, which is just finished, now it imported 89 pictures. All right. Now, if you want to see where these pictures are, because they go into a folder, if I scroll down, again, this is a file tree structure. I'm looking on my N drive. That's where we primarily put them. We're looking under 2011, so that's 2011 right there. And those were the 4 folders we had already there, and this is the new folder that contains those 89 pictures. So if I click on that to highlight it, that's showing you the contents of the pictures that are in that folder. We also have a film strip down at the bottom. You can slide from one side to the other with a scroll bar. Okay, so if you want to quickly get to where that picture is and get it highlighted. Once you got it in Lightroom, you got some views down at the bottom here. This is the grid view we're currently looking at that shows the thumbnails. If you have a picture highlighted, it shows you, and I click to the what they call the loop view, it shows you that individual picture. There's forward, backward arrows. You can, go through the pictures quickly. And if you want to compare pictures side by side, let me go back to the grid for a moment. Let's say we were to pick, say, similar pictures. Let's say, let's take these two right here. All right. If I click on this compare mode, let's say you had multiple pictures, because you shot 3-4 exposures of the same thing. It shows you the first picture of that set of, say, 3 or 4 pictures, It shows you the first one, and it shows you the second one, and if you decide you like the second one better than the first one, you can come over here and click on these commands here, and you can swap them, or you can make this second picture just select, and then you, okay, so you basically can use this little feature here to compare various views of the same pictures. If you select a bunch of pictures, let's say we want to look at these 4 pictures together, you click on the first and then shift click on the last, or control click on the individual ones, and then you come down to this view, and that's just what they call their survey view, and it'll show you the various pictures. And if you look and say, oh, I kind of like that picture, and highlight it and then come back out of that view, all right, that'll be the one that has the, when you make a selection in Lightroom, it's sort of lightly gray, shows them as a light gray, but the one that's primarily selected is in the lightest thumbnail view. And what that's used for is if you go into one of the other modes, like the develop mode, because you want to work on pictures, it still keeps these 4 pictures selected. If I switch over to develop mode, okay, so I still have these 4 pictures selected, but the second picture is the one that shows up, the one that looks like it's the most highly selected. If I want to shift over to that one, okay. All right, so that's just sort of a quickie. Let me go back into library mode. That's just sort of a quickie on importing the pictures. Let me just add that to show you what it did in terms of keywording. You see, for these pictures that are selected, and in fact, if I want to select all the pictures here, the shortcut for doing that is Control A. That selects everything that's in that folder. When I come over here and look under the keyword section, you see it shows me the keywords I'm currently using. It says fall colors, it says sunset, it says Ward Pound Ridge. These are keywords that are assigned to these particular images. All right. The sunset I had assigned to at least some of the pictures before that. I believe it's the pictures down at the bottom, because I've imported these several times. There's a keyword list, and there's a keyword list that you generate as you create new and new keywords with their sub-hierarchical structure, sort of. So, for example, if I look under places, I have pictures, I have places listed: Africa, shot from my apartment, the Bronx Zoo, whatever. And then you can do subcategories underneath all of those. So, for example, when I do animals, I have a bunch. If I click on the little, I have various animals listed, all right, and then there's keywords assigned and sub-keywords. Birds, I break it down even more by birds, and when I get to things like hawks and whatever, yeah, there's even more subcategories for the various types of birds that I have created keywords for. This just makes it easy when you're searching to really, search in great detail. If I want to find, the broadwing hawk pictures that I have, I can do a search of the database in a couple of seconds to find those. So it does the keywording, and the keywording is really critical, and it's a very important part of Lightroom. It takes a little while when you first start keywording images, but it's really worth it, basically, because it really makes it easy to find your photos very easily. The metadata that got written in when we imported the pictures, see, it's I used my copyright setup here, so it shows the copyright 2011 Dick Budnick Photography. All right, tells me it's copyrighted, tells me I'm the creator. That was information I imported along with the pictures. And it also gives you all the metadata from the camera, the ISO and all that kind of stuff is available for these pictures. If I go to any individual picture, say this picture here, and I go into like the loop view to get details about it, you get information up here that gives the file name. It gives you the shutter speed that you shot it at, the ISO, the f-stop, and you can display other sets of information by hitting I on your keyboard. You can turn that information off. You can get another set of information that tells you the date that you created the picture, the time, and the size of the picture in pixels. Okay, so there's like a 3-toggle switch when you hit the letter I on your keyboard. Okay. And I usually display it with the shooting information on the pictures. Okay, so Just you know, just a little starter to get your pictures into Lightroom so you can start playing with them.